On today's episode, I'm working with Topaz Studio 2. We're going to take this image and turn it into this image. Hello everyone and welcome to The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. This is episode number 30 of my Topaz Studio 2 Creative Toolbox series. Now I'm going to show you how I made this image today. But let me give you a little background. You can see here's all my layers here that were involved in making this image. What I've done was I came up to File and went to Save Look and gave this a name and saved it as a look. I called it Forest Glow. Actually, Forest Glow too, because I made this twice in preparation of this video tutorial today. So what I'm going to do is clear the decks here, get rid of all of these layers, and then I'm going to launch that look, Forest Glow 2, and I'm going to show you how I made all these different layer masks, and I'll show you all the settings and the different adjustments as well. By the way, I'm working with the latest version of Topaz Studio 2. This is version 2.3.2. If you don't have that update, go ahead and get it because it's a free update for everyone. First off, I want to reset all these filters, get it back to no filters at all. So come up to Edit. I thought it was File, but no, it's Edit, and click on Reset All Changes, and that'll reset everything. And now we have the original image, and now we can get started. Now we're going to go ahead and grab that look. So come up here to Add Look, and I'm under My Looks, and I have Forest Glow and Forest Glow 2. Here's my original version, and here's my second version. I like them both, but a little less amber colored, I guess, on the second one. So I'm going to click this, and that's going to load that look as soon as I click Apply. Now you can pull the amount back if you don't want the full opacity of that on there. It's up to you, but I want it at full strength, so I'm going to click Apply. And when I do, there's all my adjustments. Now, there's one thing that's missing, and that would be the layer mask. So I had layer masks on the color overlay layer, the abstraction layer, as well as the last basic adjustment layer. So we're going to rebuild all those layer masks. So whenever you save out a look, you're not getting layer masks saved with that look. So now we got to start from scratch here, and we're going to work with layer masks, okay? But first off, let's shut all these layers off, except the last, or the first layer, I should say, which is simply a basic adjustment layer. Let's click on Basic Adjustment and open this up. And you'll notice in here, the only thing I've done was, let's shut the eye off. Whoops, color overlay, sorry. Shut the eye off the adjustment layer. This image was very light, so I wanted to make it a nice moody image. So what I did was I used the basic adjustment and pulled back the exposure. Now you can pull that back as far as you want it, but that's the amount that I came up with, a -46. And already it's looking better for my vision today. And next we come up to the color overlay, the next layer. Let's turn it on. This is nothing more than the color overlay tool. And by the way, you'll find your tools here under Add Filter, okay? So color overlay, let's open it up. And it's a very simple tool to use. You basically have opacity, blending modes, and a color. You have to choose a color. So let's open up this color tool here. And inside of here, you're going to get some kind of an interface here, like a wheel or something like this, depending if you're on a Mac or a PC. You can take this little target here and move it around to any color you want. Very simple. And then you can adjust the luminosity value of that color by sliding this slider. And I ended up with this value right here. But you'll notice if I change this, you see it changing, right? But this was the value that I liked right here. Okay, and when you're happy, just click OK. And then let's change this back to the normal blend mode because it defaults in the normal blend mode. And it's not very useful in this blend mode, the color overlay tool. So remember that. You basically pretty much want to use blend modes with it. Sometimes you don't, but generally you do. So click on the normal blend mode here, and then you can hover down through the blend modes. And when you do, you'll see them change. And I experiment. I just go through them all and find one that I really like. Like overlay is not bad, but then I kept going. When I hit vivid light, I thought, "Ooh, that's beautiful," and I thought that's the one I want. So I left it on vivid light. That's how I came up with it. Experimentation, okay. And then I played around with the opacity, and I decided that 45 is good. See, if I turn this up higher, you can get a stronger effect. But I thought 45 was good for the look that I was looking for today. Now, next we're going to do some layer masking on this layer because I don't want it everywhere. I want to remove it from some parts of the image. So let's come up to the color overlay, click on the layer mask icon, And when we do, it gives us a reveal all layer mask. Now, in some of the layers, I'm going to use a hide all layer mask, but on this one, I want to reveal all. And what I'm going to do is just remove the effect from certain parts of the image, like on certain trees and things. What I want to do is ease off on this effect on the foreground coming up into the image here. I'm going to use a graduated tool to do that, this guy right here. And what I want to do is I need to turn this guy around because I want the effect at the top, but not at the bottom. You see that I want it lighter at the bottom. I do want some of it on there, but I want it to graduate as it goes up. Okay, so something, maybe somewhere right around in there. That's all I want to do with that, and click apply. And next up, I want to get a brush tool and remove some of the information from off of these trees here, okay? So I'm just using a black paint and painting down these. And I'm going pretty quick on here. I just want to remove this color overlay effect off of all the trees here. Not the distant trees, but just the foreground trees. Now I'm going pretty fast here, but take your time and get this right, because this is where you could really make or break a piece of art. And if I get a little bit sloppy, I will change my transparency to like a lighter transparency, like between the trees. If I overshot, like right here, say I move it to a light transparency, and now I can make sure I didn't screw up anything there. And I'll just keep playing with that transparency slider till I get it right. I think that's pretty good. Now on to our next layer. Now this next layer is interesting. This is the edge exposure layer. So let's turn it on. And you'll notice with this, all I did was darken down the edges here. Now this tool's easy to work with. Let's go to edge exposure here. Now, of course, you have your opacity slider, your blending modes, but then you have these icons here. This is for your left side, top, bottom side, and right side. And all I did was started with my left side, adjusted my exposure. If you move it to the right, you'll darken the edge, and then you can adjust the size of that edge. For instance, if I move it this way, see how it moves more in from the left, or you could pull that back and get it just the way you like it. And then you have a transition here, how it's transitioning from the edge into the image. In other words, how it's blending in. Okay, so you can adjust that transition. And so I did that with each edge. I went to the top next and adjusted that. And then I went to the bottom and darkened the bottom. And then I went to the right side and did the right side. And that's all I did with that layer. But that is a pretty easy tool to use. But look how effective that is for giving me a lot of drama to this image. Okay, so here's the before and here's the after. So pretty cool, right? And then don't forget, you also have the opacity here. So you could take this opacity, and if it's too strong, you could pull it back a little bit if you felt you went a little bit too strong. And I might try that. I might just ease that off to around a 0.82. I think that looks really good. And by the way, you see this apply to all button right here. If you click it, you can adjust the left side or the right side, whatever adjustment you want. And then when you click apply to all, it'll equally apply that same amount to all the sides. But in my case, I wanted them all independent. And then you have this opacity slider here. Like I said, you can pull that back. It'll equally pull the amount back on all four sides at once or increase it at once. So pretty cool stuff. So one more time, let's click this eye, shut that layer off. So that's before it and that's the after. So a pretty basic adjustment, but a very powerful adjustment nonetheless. Next up, I added another basic adjustment. Let's turn this layer on here and see what I did here. All I did here was I felt my exposure needed to open up a little bit, so I just bumped up the exposure. I touched none of the other controls. So let me shut it off, see if I still need it. That's before, and I actually like it right there. Do I need it? That's after. Maybe I could ease off in that exposure a little bit. I'm just going to pull it back a little bit. I thought maybe I'm a little too light. Yeah, but it like around a 0.13, I think that looks good. I'm happy. Let's move up to the next filter. I'll turn it on. That's the abstraction filter. On this particular layer, I just wanted to reduce some of the high frequency kind of like sticks and twigs in the foreground, and I used the abstraction filter to do it. So let me show you what I mean. Now you may think this looks cool, and I think it does, and some people don't like it. It looks too much like stained glass, but I kind of like that look, but that's not the look I'm going for here. So let me turn this abstraction layer off. And here's what I'm talking about, the sticks and high frequency like details in the front, all these light areas. I don't like it. I think it's very distracting and it makes my eye go here. So that's why I use the abstraction filter. Now what I'm going to do here is put a layer mask on it, but I'm going to do something different. I'm going to come to these three dots here, click this and invert the layer mask. and then I'm going to hide it from everything, and then I'm going to use a brush tool. So I'm going to go ahead and select my brush tool and take my transparency the whole way up to the right. So I have white. I'm going to increase my radius a good amount and make it very soft and get rid of the edge wear and just start painting away some of these, bothersome high frequency detailed areas. And now I'm going to change my transparency a little darker and paint into the lighter area of the forest. Give it a little more soft, dreamy-like quality. And I think that's good. Let's take a look at a before. So there's before and there's after. So just remove some of that detail, and I want to pull you into this beautiful forest where who knows what you may be greeted with. Like Lord of the Rings, you might meet some of the wonderful woodland fairies back in there. We're almost done. Just a few finishing touches. Let's go to the next layer. It's a basic adjustment layer. And let's open it up and see what we got here. Now, you may be asking yourself the same question I just asked myself. Why in the heck did you darken this up, Dave? Because if you'll notice down here, all I did here was pulled my exposure back, okay, to a minus 45. And let's shut this layer off, and I'll show you why I did this. I thought these trees looked unnatural here. I think they needed to look a little bit darker, as well as this tree over here. I think it needed to look a little bit darker. So I wanted to use a layer mask on it to darken it up. So that's why I did that. So I made that adjustment. Let's turn it back on just to darken everything down. And then I went and put a layer mask on it and did that same thing I did on that abstraction layer and came to the three dots, clicked it and inverted it, removed it from everything. Now I can just paint it off of these tree trunks. Well, let's do it. Get a brush tool. I'm going to move the transparency to solid white, adjust my radius. I'm going to start with the small trees first in the center, get my softness pretty soft, remove my edge of wear. I could probably leave that on, but I'm just going to paint down these trees that are a little too light. And you'll see here, see how they darken up here in a second. See that? Looks more sense. I'm going to ease off in the transparency a little bit and just darken this one down just a tiny little bit, just like so. Maybe a little more. Okay, now I'm going to go to the left side of the screen, darken these trees down a little bit, just to add some nice continuity to this image. I guess that's a good word. Continuity. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, increase that to white and get rid of that little bit of light there and right here at the bottom. And I think that looks good. Now let's take a look at the before and after. So here's the before and here's the after. What do you think? I think that really helps. It pulls you in. I really want to go into this forest here. Now, the last thing I want to do, I thought the saturation on the top here was a little too much here, so I wanted to ease off in the saturation, and that's why I added this HSL color tuning layer right here. Let's turn it on, and you can see I've removed saturation from the entire image, but I only need to remove it from the top portion. I'll use a layer mask to do that, but let's go ahead and open up the HSL color tuning, and you'll notice I just pulled back the overall saturation to like a minus 43. Now, I could have used another basic adjustment and pulled the saturation back there, but I used HSL color tuning. Now, I guess I was maybe thinking maybe I need to alter the hue or something of that color, but I didn't have to, so a basic adjustment would have worked just fine. Let's go ahead and grab another layer mask, click the layer mask icon. Now let's come to the three dots and let's invert it, make it all black to hide it. Let's get a grad tool here, and let's take our transparency up to full white for the full effect. We'll leave the edge wear on. I'm going to slide this up, adjust the graduation zone between the red and the green, and let's see here. I'm going to pull my edge wear up the whole way. Let's add some edge wear on there, and let's transition this a little more here and get it right into the right position. And I think that's looking really good. Let's click apply. If we need to make any alterations, we can come back to the HSL color tuning layer just by clicking right here, and then come down to overall saturation, and you could readjust it and just get it blended in just the way you think it looks good. And I think right there looks really nice. Now let's see a before. Here's the before and here's the after. So we just eased off on that adjustment just a little bit. There's just one last thing I need to do, and that's this little spot down here. I want to get rid of it. I'm just going to use a healing brush to do it. I'll do it right here in Topaz Studio 2. So click on heal. And I have a tiny little brush here. Now you can change that brush size right here. So I want a nice little small brush. And I'm just going to paint across there and get rid of that. And this little line right here, I think I'm going to get rid of that too. Let's go over that one more time. Just like that. Hit it a couple times and it's good. There's a little thing right here. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, and I think I'm good to go. And all I have to do is click apply. And now I'm finished. Well, let's see where we've come from. We started out looking like this, and we end up looking like this. Now, I started my image out in Photoshop. I didn't show you that because I wanted to save time today. But I started out in Photoshop, so all I'd have to do is click accept. That'll send me into Photoshop. Now, I didn't do anything to it in Photoshop, so you didn't miss anything, okay? If you started out as a standalone app with Topaz Studio 2, all you need to do is come up here to File and click on Save Project As. Give it a name. It'll save it with all these layers intact. Well, there it is, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today. Give it a try. Don't forget I'm leaving the download link for this image in the description below. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a like, share it with your friends. If you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe, click that bell notification icon. Then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll be notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today on The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and I'll see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.